Hello friends, I hope you are all well and safe. Welcome to video 29 in our series Principles of Equity Investing. Video 27, video 28, both were important. Video 27 talked about the importance of time value in estimating the value of any asset. And at that time, we had taken examples of a bond. We had looked at different investors, their different expectations, and how the valuation of a bond will differ depending on different expectations of different individuals. In fact, that's the very reason why there is a trading in the market where people have different expectations, they have different value judgment, and therefore, uh, in their paradigm of value versus price, everybody is taking a different call, and that's how trading is happening, apart from the factors like greed and fear. In video 28, we actually talked about the riskiness of equity as an asset class as measured by the risk premium that we had estimated for market. And when we say market, we are actually talking about an index. And then we also try to estimate the riskiness of a particular share in relation to a market index. And that's where we talked about the concept of beta in the previous video. So now we are going to build on that discussion further, and we are now entering into a discussion of how time value concept can be applied in valuation of equity. And we are going to discuss different models here, like zero growth in dividend model, constant growth model, and a variable growth model. And of course, we will see in what circumstances will that apply. So let's, I think, get into that exciting discussion about how do we use time value in equity valuation. So what is the agenda for today? Very quickly, a review of what we discussed in video 28. I have already given you a glimpse of that, but just let's quickly recap those points. Then we talked about various models, which I don't want to repeat. Dividend discount model in the context of zero growth, constant growth, variable growth. So we'll see all that. Uh, so that's going to be interesting. And before that, let's do a quick recap, as I said. So in video 28, we talked about how do we make an estimate of the required return. We had taken examples of high beta stocks, medium beta, which is close to 1, and low beta stocks. I had also shown you data about various Indian companies, which fall in which brackets. So you would have got a glimpse of that. And then we also said that considering the higher risk, the return expectation has to be higher, and therefore, how do we make an estimate of the required return? And that's where we discussed the concept of beta, which can help us to do that. And then we looked at data of Indian companies, and we had also seen an example of arriving at the required return using the beta of that particular company. And you may remember we had taken examples of Tata Motors, ITC, and Infosys, three companies with three different beta values, and how the required return of investors will change depending on the riskiness as measured by beta, as has been observed over a period of time, right from 1 month based on daily movement to a monthly movement over a period of 4 years. And we have of course seen the data based on a monthly movement of a particular share in relation to the monthly movement of market, and that's where we could see how numbers could be plotted, and then there could be a line of best fit, and all that we had discussed in video 28. Those of you who have directly come to this video, I would encourage you to spend some time on video 27 and 28, particularly because this is not only relevant for equity, but whenever you are assessing your investment decisions, you need to consider this in the context of these parameters, and therefore I would encourage you to look at both those videos. Now let's look at the dividend discount model as a very fundamental way of valuing an equity share, because dividend is the primary source of cash flow for an equity investor, and typically dividends are expected to grow from year to year. But as we said, we are going to discuss models in different contexts, so we'll do that in a while. And then what we do is all the future flow of dividends year after year, we discount them today by using the time value concept. We arrive at their present value because, as we have already discussed in video 27, a future cash flow, an amount that you're going to receive 2 years later, has a different value today when we measure it from today's prism, today's perspective. So that's where this discounting process happens, and through that we actually estimate the stock's value today. Now, discounting is to be done based on the required return, which takes into account risk. That is what we discussed in video 28, and that becomes the basis of arriving at the present value. So let us look at a zero growth model. Now this is actually just a model, and in reality we know that dividend will never be constant. We actually always look for growth in dividend. But this is a simplified model just for us to do a quick rough and ready calculation. Plus, this model can also apply in mature companies where no fresh investment is happening. They're not growing. They have enough capacity. Maybe they have outsourced it. They are just milking their brand, and therefore there will be some natural growth which may happen as the economy grows. But let's say if population also stabilizes and the growth in that particular company is going to be muted, then even this model can work there. So what is the model? The model is very simple. The model is that if you're going to receive dividend D for many years and for infinite period of time, then how do you value it? So as we already discussed, we need to arrive at the present value, and the present value factor is nothing else but, as we had discussed in video 27, 1 divided by 1 plus R, R being the required rate of return, and then because the period keeps on growing, we also put an exponential. As you can see in that column of present value factor, the factor itself undergoes a change as raised to 2, raised to 3, raised to 4, etc., etc. And therefore the present value is simply a multiplication of dividend amount and present value. So it is D into 1 divided by 1 plus R, D into 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to 2, D into 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to 3, and so on and so forth. So the model gives us a quick answer by putting the value as equal to the D, which is dividend per share, divided by the required rate of return. So here you can see an example. The example is that D is equal to 50 rupees, R is equal to 11%, and R, which is the required rate of return, is 11%, D is 50 rupees. So the value can be very easily estimated as 50 divided by 11%. 11% is 0.11. So 50 divided by 0.11 will be equal to 454.55 paise. So basically, therefore, we would be willing to pay a price approximately close to this valuation estimate, and then through the stream of dividends that we are going to receive, we'll be able to realize a return of 11%. That's what actually it signifies. So I hope you got an idea about this zero growth model. But remember, I told you that this can apply in a certain limited context, because we invest in shares essentially because they grow, not because they are going to give a flat stream of dividend. But this is just for your awareness and as a very simple model you can keep in mind. So friends, now let's look at a constant growth model. In this constant growth model, again, we are going to do the same process. We are going to look at the present value of all future Ds. The only difference is, as you can see in this table, the D is not going to be flat. It is going to be growing constantly. In the earlier model, it was constant dividend model. Dividend itself was not growing. In this model, as you can see in column 2, dividend is growing. At what rate it is going? It is growing at growth rate G%. So D multiplied by 1 plus G. And then in the year 2, 1 plus G will have to be made raised to 2, raised to 3, raised to 4, and so on. But look at column 3. That cash flow from an investor's perspective is going to happen in future and future years, and therefore we need to arrive at their present value also. Now the way we do that is by discounting process, and that's where we divide by 1 plus R. But it cannot be 1 plus r for all years. It has to be 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to 2, raised to 3, raised to 4, and infinitum. But then what we do is the last column. In the last column is actually a multiplication of these earlier two columns. So d multiplied by 1 plus g divided by 1 plus r. Now that 1 naturally goes away because if you're putting something in the denominator without anything in the numerator, we need to put 1 there. But when we multiply and we are going to have a numerator which is d multiplied by 1 plus g, that 1 disappears and it gets divided by 1 plus r. Now, as you can see in the denominator as well as numerator, both are getting into an exponential mode, raised to 2, raised to 2, raised to 3, raised to 3, and so on. Now, you will say, oh, this is a very complicated exercise. Who is going to do all this? Actually, that's not required. So now, let's look at a quick formula to arrive at this value. So how do we arrive at the value? And we're going to take an example. Value is equal to d multiplied by 1 plus g, that constant growth rate, divided by r minus g. Now what is d? D is the last dividend, d is last dividend, g is the growth rate, and r is the required rate of return. So we substitute that value. Let's take an example. Let us say the last dividend was 50 rupees and the required rate of return is 15%. Growth is 9%. So what we do is the value is equal to 50 multiplied by 1 plus g. So in this case 1 plus 9%, which is 0.9. So 50 into 1.09, and we divide it by r minus g, which is 15% minus 9%. So 50 multiplied by 1.09 divided by 6%, and 6% becomes 0.06. So then we can get an estimate of the value of the share at about 908 rupees. If the dividend is going to be 50 rupees next year, or 50 rupees last year, and then it is going to grow at 9% year after year, then I will get a value of 908 rupees approximately. This is how we can use the constant growth model. Now this we can use generally in case of most companies, because as lay investors, as common investors, we may not be able to do a very refined projection of how the company is going to grow over next 7-8 years and so on, and then thereafter we were to assume a constant growth model. Now all that refined calculation analysts who are tracking companies do, and I'll also give you a glimpse of that in the next slide, where we are going to take a little more elaborate example, and I request you to be ready with a little more elaborate example where we are going to look at variable growth, because variable growth would get into a nuance in terms of making a real estimate of what the dividend stream is likely to be based on how the company's operational and business plans are panning out and so on. So that is what analysts do, and we will see that how they do. But as lay investors, for us this model is a reasonably good model, where we can look at the historical growth, we can make a suitable adjustment to the historical growth, and then use this model to do a projection of the value. Now that's an estimate by any stretch of imagination, but nonetheless it gives us a good idea about the price that we are paying is reasonable or not. Of course, we are also going to look at the other ways of evaluating a company, which I have already discussed in the previous videos, and therefore I'm not going to labor on that, but I thought of just refreshing it so that we all are aware about some of these basic aspects. So let's now look at a little more complex model. So variable growth model. Now again, the same principle applies here also. Estimated value is the present value of all future Ds. Now we can estimate dividends, say, over next 8 years. This is just an assumption. Somebody could say I can only estimate for 5 years or 4 years. That really depends, taking into account the potential of a company to grow quickly. So we are looking at a growth company which is going to have a rapid growth over next say 7-8 years, and after that that's going to taper down. After 8 years is going to be a relatively slower growth, a little more muted growth, and obviously we don't have a visibility of anything beyond 1 year, what to talk about anything beyond 8 years, and therefore we make a simple assumption of some kind of a constant growth thereafter. So we can make an estimate of D1 to D8 on the assumption that as the profits grow, dividends are also going to grow, and we can get into making more refined estimates, which is what, as I said earlier, the analysts do. And then we'll have to discount them again at the required rate of return. But that's not the end of the story, because after the D8 also the company is going to continue. And from the 9th year onward, the company will grow at some reasonable constant rate. So we will not be able to do very detailed projections, but we can, make a reasonable assumption about a flat growth like what we saw in the earlier slide. So what we'll have to do in that case is we'll have to arrive at an estimated value at the end of 8 years. Just like applying the constant growth model, we'll have to arrive at some value at the end of 8 years. Probably the price at which we'll be able to sell the share, assuming that the price and value would be in equilibrium. So how will we estimate that value at the end of 8 years? It will be the next dividend, which is D9 divided by R minus G. A similar principle. D9 is essentially what? D9 is D8 multiplied by 1 plus G, which is the growth rate that we're going to assume thereafter. So let's take an example. Before we take an example, let's look at some bit of clarity using this table. So in this table, what I'm going to do is I'm just projecting those cash flows D1 to D2, D3, D4, D5 for each of the years. But in D8, what happens is I'm not only going to get a dividend, but probably I'll be able to sell this share at a certain price. And how do I arrive at that price? I make an estimate of the value as it will prevail at the end of 8 years, which is V8, not the price today, friends. It is the price based on a value which is going to, or which is likely to prevail at the end of 8 years. And then we have this usual present value factor, which is again going to vary from year to year. And then present value of dividend is simply the multiplication of the two columns, and therefore I'll not waste your time here. But look at year 8. Year 8 has D8 plus V8 being multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus R raised to 8. So using this framework, let's take an example and get clarity. So friends, here is some data. Don't have to remember all this data. This data I'm just giving to you, just for you to get a clarity. This data will all be there in the next slide. So expected dividends for next 8 years are D1 is 40, D2 is 50, 60, 75, 100, 120, 140, and then say D8 is going to be 170. The 9th year dividend is likely to be 190, and then it will grow at 8% per annum thereafter. This is what estimate we have done. The beta for this share is 1.4, risk-free return is 7%, and market return is 14%. So you already know what is the market risk premium, which is 14% minus 7%. And then we have to arrive at the premium for the risk premium for the share, and then do the further calculation. So we'll do that on the next slide. So market premium is 14% minus 7%, which is equal to 7%. Beta is 1.4. This risk premium has to be 9.8. For those who have not seen video 28, the risk premium will be a simple multiplication of the market premium, that is the premium that share market as a whole measured by say a Nifty or a Sensex gets over and above risk-free return, and for a particular share by multiplying that with the beta of that relevant company, which is 1.4 in this case, we can get the risk premium for that particular company, which is 9.8, and the risk-free return is say 7%, and therefore the required return for this stock is going to be 9.8% of risk premium plus the risk-free return of 7%, which is 16.8%. So we have arrived at the value of R. Now, what is likely to be the value at the end of 8 years? I'm saying, I'm not talking about today, I'm saying at the end of 8 years using a constant growth model thereafter. Constant growth we have assumed to be 8%. So 190, which is going to be the dividend for 9th year, after taking into account the growth between 8th year and 9th year, that is 190 divided by 0.168 minus 0.08, which is the constant growth hereafter, and therefore value at the end of 8 years is likely to be 2159. So we are estimating that, assuming at the end of 8 years, everybody agrees with our view that the uh, company is going to grow at the rate of 8% thereafter, and the required rate of return even that time is going to be 16.8%, then we can arrive at the value of that particular stock at the end of 8 years, which is likely to be 2159, and we can therefore assume, uh, in the want of data about the future, we can assume that the price that we will be able to fetch if you were to sell the share will be 2159 that time at the end of 8 years. So with this data, now let's do further calculations. So what are going to be the cash flows? Cash flows again have been plotted year after year, dividends between year 1 to year 7. But in the year 8, we are going to get the dividend for 8th year plus the price of 2159 based on our previous estimation. Then again, we apply the present value factor formula here, and then arrive at the value today. So I hope you got a feel in terms of how the today's value can be estimated using the data. So we have to then plot the present value factors based on our required return, and then the present value of the cash flows is simply a multiplication of the earlier column, which is column of cash flow, with the present value factor, and that will give us the present value of the cash flow. Now, based on that, the aggregate, we can get its estimated value today. So obviously the price that will prevail 8 years later is going to be much more, because naturally the company is going to grow in the interim, and it may reach that price of 2159 at the end of 8 years. So that is perfectly fine, but that's how we can make an estimate of its today's value. So I hope you liked the video. If you have, please press the like button, subscribe the channel, offer your comments, share the video, and do suggest different topics. And if they are in my realm, I'll surely be interested in making a video on that. Thank you very much for your patronage. Really appreciate.